Welcome to The Deal, a podcast dedicated to maximizing name, image, and likeness opportunities. You'll hear from student athletes, coaches, and athletic administrators on how NIL partnerships can impact individuals and the schools they attend. It all comes down to making the best deal.
Everyone, welcome back to The Deal. It's the Name, Image, and Likeness podcast where student athletes, administrators, and coaches can learn about NAIA, name, image, and likeness deals, the benefits, and how to get started. My name is Paige Salveter. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Communications here at the NAIA in downtown Kansas City. And this podcast is brought to you by our partner, Open Doors, which is the world's leading athlete influencer platform. Today, I am so fortunate, and you all are fortunate, to have this most outstanding guest from Langston University, which is the only HBCU in Oklahoma. I would love to welcome now Donnita Rogers, who is our athletics director at Langston, and Fachaitte Kinslow, who is the assistant AD and also senior woman leader. Welcome, ladies. Tell us a little about yourself, and then let's get cracking on NIL.
Well, good morning, Paige. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Great. Well, I'll start us out. My name is Donnita Rogers, and I am the Director of Athletics here at Langston University, and I've been here in this capacity for about 8 years. I was also fortunate enough to be the head women's basketball coach here for 13 years, so I did a few things in between those two stints, so I'm telling my age a little bit, but I'm grateful to be on this podcast with you and my assistant AD Fachaitte. I'll let her introduce herself, and then I'm excited to get started about talking about what we're doing in regards to NIL at Langston University.
Well, good morning. My name is Fachaitte Kinslow. I'm the Assistant Director of Athletics and Senior Women Leader here at Langston. I will going into my third year in November, and just very fortunate to be here at Langston. I grew up here. My parents were graduates of here, as Donnita's as well. So we have the opportunity to come back home and be where our parents actually met and work with these wonderful and amazing student athletes.
Well, awesome. Well, obviously your years of expertise and then your just newest partnership with Open Doors. We were super excited to see you all are the only NAIA institution who has their own name, image, and likeness Open Doors marketplace. And I would love to just start with, why did you all partner with Open Doors for your name, image, and likeness deals and for the student athletes?
Well, I'll do a shameless plug for the NAIA convention. You know, I'd heard a lot about Open Doors, but was actually able to learn a little bit more about it from Bree Cassidy when I served on the Council of Student Athletes panel. And I was just like, hey, I'm really interested in learning a little bit more about Open Doors. And so, again, the NAIA had some programming that Open Doors sponsored that we could go and sit in there and learn much more, have a lot more of our questions answered. And I felt like it was just an unbelievable deal. If you've ever maybe you've been shopping or you've done something and you're just like, this price can't be right. What this company claims to offer, this just can't be possible. And so I asked a ton of questions. And then even when that was over, the convention was over, we scheduled another meeting to talk. And I was like, okay, surely I'll learn what the catch is or something like that. And there hasn't been a catch. Like, they are directly, everything that they said that they would do, they have stood by that. And so I feel like we've had our own marketplace for about almost 2 months. And right now, all of our student athletes have completed their profiles. We still have a few that are signing up, but we just had some training 2 days ago with Open Doors for our student athletes. And I'm just blown away at how good their profiles are. And I feel like this is like the most current way, up-to-date way for our student athletes to really start caring and thinking about their personal branding. So I can't say enough, and you guys are probably gonna have to just shut me up and allow Fachaitte and yourselves to talk, Paige.
Well, I'd love to have the audience learn a little bit more about what is the marketplace for those institutions who maybe are thinking about, NAIA in general and opportunities for our student athletes, what is the marketplace and what is it doing for your student athletes?
Okay, I'll go. So right now, if our listeners will just Google Langston University Open Doors Marketplace, it is actually a branded website where you can go and check out each one of our student athletes. Maybe you are really into basketball, maybe you are into competitive cheer. So we have all of our student athletes from all of our competitive programs that are on there, and they're allowed there. I believe there's like 5 spaces there for them to have a short profile picture there. And so a lot of them just have a taste of everything that they're doing, everything from in their uniform, or maybe if they volunteer somewhere, some of their favorite pics where you can learn a lot about those individuals from their profile. They have a biography on there, and they have all their social media accounts linked on there. And it gives those people that are looking for a way to maybe promote their business or their brand to pick one of our student athletes to sign a personal contract with. The student athletes have an opportunity, like so many days, to review their contract. And it may be like, I have a certain shirt that I want you to try to pick up more sales for me online. So I need you to do 5 Instagram posts for me, and I'll pay you $50 per post. It's things like that. And so the athlete looks at it, and according to their time and practice schedule, then they can determine if that deal is right for them. On the administrators side of it, Paige, I'll be honest. I knew that we're a small college, and I knew that we would never have the funds to have a particular NIL officer or an office on campus. So Open Doors has served as that platform for an administrator, where at least if I have to take on another hat, I have all of my information right there on the dashboard. So every morning, every time a new student athlete signs up for Open Doors under Langston University, I see that student athlete. Every time they have a contract, that's also on there, and I can view and talk to them about their options on that. And it just cuts down so much time. So that's like a brief overview. Probably listening and taking in a lot, like drinking from a fire hose. But that's kind of the short version. I just can't say enough of the technology that has gone in the Open Doors platform. Also providing education and information on what's going to happen. After you make $600, you're going to be getting that 1099. Educate our student athletes on what that looks like, where to find that on their Open Doors account, things to look out for. They also showed us some of the best practices. And one of the things on the education piece the other night was that I believe NAIA student athletes have done well over like $150,000 worth of NIL agreements. And I think that's something that hasn't been highlighted enough, because everyone assumes that you're not going to get an NIL deal unless you're affiliated with the NCAA, and that's just not true.
Right. Yeah. And that's the whole part of the podcast, is really, again, to educate, not just our student athletes, but also our administrators and how to help them. If you think about yourselves as administrators, and obviously, Fachaitte, you're newer in the role, and Donnita, you've been there longer. How do you see this benefiting your institution long term, and your student athletes for recruiting aspects, or for retention, or just another, probably benefit to Langston University and the marketplace itself?
It's definitely helped the recruiting already. Some of the other schools, and Donnita and I talked about this the other day, some of the other schools are starting to lose recruits to schools that are offering NIL branding. So it's definitely helping the recruiting process, since we are a small college and we're not able to offer a lot of the scholarships that other schools offer. This definitely puts us in front of the other schools in that sense.
Nice. How many of your student athletes to date? I know you just started, like you said, Donnita, 2 months ago. How many student athletes do you have right now that are in the marketplace and are looking to benefit from their brand?
I need to check that. And after our meeting the other day, we have a lot of new transfers and freshmen, obviously, that have not logged on yet. So as we finish up this eligibility process and we kind of kind of weed through and see our numbers, where we actually stand, we'll go out and try to reach more of those student athletes that didn't go ahead and enroll on their own since they've been back to school. But I want to say, like, one of the things I was very impressed where I knew that we were really onto something was in the end of May and June, when we were trying to get our marketplace up and running by June 28th was our launch date. And we sent emails out, and we probably had about a 75% to 80% response rate on students going on and immediately jumping on and start attempting to begin work on their profile. So there's a lot of things that we send out, and trust me, we do not get that type of response rate.
Yeah,
so I'm very pleased, and I would say we probably have about 85% of our returners that are on Open Doors already. And we're probably only about 40 or 50% of our new student athletes, but I feel like that will grow definitely by the end of August when we have a chance to really get started. We started school July 31st. And so by the time we really get, football kicks off next week, volleyball kicks out next week, and I feel like we'll have a chance to kind of settle in and get more of those students enrolled.
Nice. Well, one of the things that we're hoping to do is we want to check back in with Langston probably in 4 months just to see how things are going. But I'd like to leave our listeners just really, what would you tell other athletics administrators in the NAIA? How do you get started? And maybe any other benefits that you want to hone in on for our listeners today.
Well, first of all, I want to leave listeners with the fact that originally when NIL passed, I was irritated. I'm not going to lie. I was like, this is just another, thing for us to have to battle and deal with. And if it's not done correctly, it could have an impact on student athletes, eligibility and participation. And so the biggest thing that they have to remember is that with an NIL agreement, it's not about just being paid money. It's about having a service provided for the money. So it's not like you can pay someone, hey, I want you to do $1,000. I'm going to give you $1,000, and it's an NIL agreement. That student athlete has to do something to earn that. It could be reading to elementary school students. It could be passing out flyers. It could be a social media post. But there's always something done in return for the money. And so once you start really realizing that it is that simple, you have to look at it that all of your student athletes are having the opportunity basically to create their own personal business. And one of the things that we really push is clean up your own social media accounts. Yeah. You are a brand, and most of these businesses will go on there and look and see what you have on your social media account before they choose you to be a representative for them. So I feel like this has been a great way for us to start working on ourselves personally and preparing for when they're out in the marketplace for real in their career choice. And then who knows, we may have some social media influencers in the making here at Langston University. I hope that's the fact. Also recruiting. I'll pick on our men's basketball coach, Chris Wright. Had a phenomenal season last year, and just released some of the players that he has coming in for this year. And he felt like it was a big turning point for all of them, for them to look and see that Langston has invested in their marketplace in NIL. And it wasn't necessarily that we have some of those SEC NIL contracts that we hear about, but that they had the opportunity there, and that we cared enough to invest in this, in our student athletes, their potential to earn money. So I feel like that NIL is going to change the recruiting game, even in the NAIA. And so if you definitely want to stay competitive in that recruiting round, you probably need to reach out to Open Doors and just schedule a meeting. I mean, it costs nothing just to have a meeting where you're asking questions and getting some demonstrations on what Open Doors has to offer.
Nice. Didn't your basketball team make it to the national championship after this first year of coaching at
They
Langston?
did. I could
Nice,
really
nice.
go on and on. We had the biggest turnaround in basketball history, and that's at any level, from 1-27 to 31-3.
Very cool.
If I told you that in 5 minutes, you could make updates to your profile that improve your chances at getting an NIL deal, would you do it? Open the mobile app and tap Improve Profile Strength. Complete all the sections in the guide, and you'll be an all-star. We'll give you a profile badge to prove it. Best of all, you'll now be a top result in fan and brand searches, all in less than 5 minutes.
Well, it sounds like you have learned a lot through this process. Are there any other tips that you would, talk about for any other student athletes, and maybe even just the relationship of what that looks like? Because my understanding is that a student athlete, if they're going to benefit from their name, image, and likeness, that they have to report to you specifically, Donnita, as the athletics director. Any advice to other administrators of how to talk their students through the process?
Fachaitte, would you want to talk a little bit on that part?
Yeah,
on the reporting process?
I would definitely say schools should look at signing with Open Doors before they actually need it. Don't wait till you have that star athlete and then try to sign up. Go ahead and get it started so you have it in the making. And then when you do get that star athlete, it's already in the process. Last year we kind of looked at it after, our kids, the conference, and we just weren't ready. We just weren't there yet. And then this year we were very fortunate that administration backed us up on that part. And definitely do the research on Open Doors. How is it going to help you? The pros and the cons. Last year, without Open Doors, we had kids that supposedly had they were like, "Hey, Miss Kinslow, here's my shirt." And I'm like, "You haven't talked to me about having your own shirt or your own branding." And I don't know if they were scared to talk to us because they were afraid we were going to take part of their money or what the deal was, but it was just hard for them to follow the rules and the procedures for NIL. And this has really helped us out a lot. So very fortunate. That's the pros and cons on my part.
But it sounds like it's also taken some of the administrative burden from you all, and then Open Doors really handles a lot of maybe some of the bureaucracy and some of the steps that you don't have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I feel like it's really helped that, Open Doors, I feel like it's kind of a badge of honor or whatever for you to report. So they made it look like, it's not, and again, like Fachaitte indicated, we don't want your money. We also want to make sure that we have the opportunity to make sure that you're protected, that no one's taking advantage of you. And so Open Doors takes some of that fear away, where they're doing some of the screening of the vendors and the people that are offering contracts on Open Doors. And then Open Doors also gives you the opportunity where if there's a company that doesn't want to sign up with Open Doors, you can still offer an NIL contract that's not through Open Doors, and it gives a place on the Open Doors site for our student athlete to actually manually input that information. And so Open Doors will still help you track that. Again, if you made over $600 there, you're going to have a 1099 coming. So it's educating them on the tax piece. There's so many other benefits besides that student athlete just making money. Right now, there's a company that's offering an NIL opportunity where students can get their real estate license, and that's like a $2,500 value, and it takes something like around 120 hours or whatever. But I mean, those are some things. Can you imagine getting that for free?
No.
And then having the opportunity where they will let you be mentored with a real estate agent, and that student athlete can earn up to 25% on referrals. So there's some things that, especially if you know that, hey, I'm really interested in real estate and I want to do that. I mean, you can really have yourself set up by the time you graduate for college. But I can't speak enough about having everything at your fingertips. at one point. And, yesterday I just met with a student athlete. I reviewed one of the contracts that she was looking at, and she probably has about 7, I would say, pending. And I was just like, oh, you really might want to look at this. I'm not telling you don't have my permission to proceed, but I really feel like this one might impact some of the business that you can do in the future. She's like, well, I did kind of have a bad feeling about it. And she's like, I talked to my mom. I was like, you got to start, paying attention to that feeling and listening to it. And I'm like, not saying that you can't, but I really feel like you may regret this contract. So just having those real conversations that sometimes many of us aren't exposed to until we're older in life or once we've graduated, and they're having those right now. And you're in a safe place where no, you don't have to sign every contract that's offered.
That's great
And
advice.
yeah,
That's great advice, because we're hearing a lot of from our student athletes. We've probably had 6 interviews for these podcasts, and we're hearing it's good to really review those contracts, make sure that they're reading the fine print, and that it's something that they're passionate about too, because the money will come, but if it's not something that they want to see on their brand the rest of their life, they have to be very careful in some of the deals that they actually choose.
I also think, excuse me, I also think it may even help with our retention. Kids are always leaving, going to different schools for different reasons. And we had one student that was going to be transferring, and the first thing that he was asking about was his NIL deal. And I was like, well, if you're going to a school that doesn't offer that, I don't know how that's going to work.
Right.
So it may play a huge part in retention as well.
Right. Are you guys keeping track of those numbers and seeing how the marketplace might potentially impact that by the end of the next fiscal year?
We definitely will. And that's kind of our census date for our school was finished on Friday. We're deep into eligibility for football. We actually play on 0 week next week. So we'll definitely try to track those numbers with all of our eligibility certificates, moving forward. And again, we already last year had one of our highest retention rates with, I believe we were like 81%. And so I'll be really, really interested to see what those numbers look like moving forward, and just seeing what our student athletes can do. Because there is a learning process. It's also new and you're going to get out of Open Doors what you put into it. It's ironically, it's kind of like that team play. It's amazing how those starters are the ones usually that put in the most work outside of practice, have great work ethic and great follow through. So I feel like all of those things and those characteristics are going to be very important for someone being successful on NIL. But we're really hoping to do some amazing things with NIL, and hopefully our student athletes will be great representative. I feel like the sky's the limit, especially on the HBCU market. And so we're really trying to back our young student athletes and hope they have a great year.
Well, this has been amazing. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your advice, and hopefully other administrators and student athletes will find your journey beneficial for them, and love hearing about the retention aspect as well. So we're going to learn more about the deal, everyone's deal. And today's was Langston's deal. So thank you all for this episode of the podcast, the NAIA, The Deal. Have a great day.